to get us sucked in, to give us the dopamine response. So what I tell people a lot of times is that it's not your fault. Not your fault that you go to your phone out of boredom and you scroll through Instagram. Your brain has gotten so used to that response.
Welcome to The Grit Show, Growth on Purpose. I'm your host, Shauna Rodriguez, and I'm happy to be here with you as your guide for all of us growing together as seekers and thrivers. Sought after by Fortune 100 companies and others, Marcey Rader has spoken for tens of thousands of people worldwide, from North Dakota to Dubai to Tokyo. As an award-winning speaker, she trains her audiences to maximize their energy, conquer the calendar, master tasks, and extinguish their email to change your career, team, organization, one habit at a time. Marcey Rader believes that health powers productivity. She's a multi-certified health and productivity expert, a 3-time author, and the founder of Rader Co. Marcey helps executives, teams, and individuals banish burnout, keep good people, and move forward through practical, tailored tools, healthy, sustainable habits, and coaching accountability. We are very excited to have her here today to help us learn about these things. Welcome, Marcey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I would love to hear more about your journey to becoming an expert about the efficiency and the productivity pieces.
Sure. I used to work in clinical research, and I worked in that field for 14 years. And the last 6 to 8, I was a corporate trainer. And during that time, for about a decade, I traveled up to 48 weeks a year.
Oh, wow.
And also did over 100 ultra and endurance events, so Ironmans and longer. And managed to shut down with inbox zero every night with all the travel and the training and things. And people would ask me, how do you do that? Teach me.
Yeah.
And I would do this training for clinical leads that was 2 weeks long, and one for new CRAs that was 3 weeks long. And the last day was always like Marcey special training on email and time management and how to travel and be healthy and all those things. And the feedback that I got was always, this was the best part of the whole 2 weeks or the whole 3 weeks. It's practical, it's actionable.
Yes.
And when I decided to leave the corporate world, it felt very natural to me to move into that space and coach and speak and train on that. But I will tell you, the book that started it all for me, I mean, I've always been very organized, and I'm type A, type awesome. And so I've always been very organized. But the book that really changed my life was called The Power of Less by Leo Babauta. And probably 13, 14 years ago, I read that. We downsized twice, culminating from that book. I mean, when I say it changed my life, we moved, we got rid of a bunch of stuff. We moved again. We now live in an 1,100 square foot house. We are debt free. I became debt free at 46. I'm 48 now. I read everything about minimalism that I could find. And this was when this was a long time ago. So, any blog that people would write about minimalism and productivity, I just absorbed it all. And it just became a passion of mine. And there it went crazy from then on.
It's so intriguing. I love it. I want to hear more about this. This is great. And so you kind of integrated the minimalism aspects of being able to work with productivity. Is kind of how those two things came together, huh?
Yes. And that word minimalism scares people a little bit because some people think that it means that you have one bowl, one spoon, you wear the same color of shirt and the same, style every day. And it really is just, only having around you what you love and what is functional. I say, getting rid of the meh, like just the stuff is like meh, like not having that clutter up your space.
Yeah.
Your inbox, not having a lot of things come in that don't add value to you. Social media, being very intentional about it, not going to it out of boredom. And so you can think of minimalism in a different way. It could even be the number of connections that you have, the number of groups that you belong to. And so it's not I don't really use that term anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
it's what got me started on this
Yeah.
path. Yeah.
Yes. To find your way to be able to make things fit a little better, it sounds like
Yeah.
even.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Well, tell us more about this. Like, what is the piece that you feel is the most useful for your clients that you've found for trying to make things work better for them?
The main thing that people come to our company for is really comes down to digital distraction.
Mm-hmm.
We get hired a lot for email extinguisher, simple steps to shrink the inbox. That's
Mm-hmm.
our main workshop. We even have an email action plan. That's a 2-session coaching program. There we have something called Focus Power Ups, which is a workshop on dealing with tech distractions, and especially at home. The search term "how to focus at work" increased by 300% in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do workshops, training, and private coaching or personal coaching really around guardrails, around time, technology, and energy, even. And a lot of that comes down to what we're focusing on and prioritizing.
And is that where you find is the most important thing is making like conscious decisions about what you're going to prioritize and focus on, the planning piece of that, or?
Yes. And so with technology, technology is designed with a hook to get us sucked in, to give us
Yeah.
the dopamine response. So I tell people a lot of times is that it's not your fault. Not your fault that you go to your phone out of boredom and scroll through
Yes.
Instagram. Our brain has gotten so used to that response. And sometimes it seems counterintuitive, but to save yourself from yourself, you sometimes need technology to save yourself from a technology. And I am a big fan of an app called Freedom, and
Mm-hmm.
it's something you can install on your computer, and it will block you from certain websites at certain times of the day. Or if you decide, like, I want to focus on this thing, that, you turn on a Freedom session for however many minutes, and you can't open up any other websites or any that you blacklisted. And so, it's okay to have to use those things,
Yeah.
because it's not a good idea to waste your willpower on it. And that's what it comes down to is, when we are fighting, not looking at our phones, not looking at our email,
Mm-hmm.
that's taking up precious willpower
Yes.
that we could maybe be using at night when we're deciding what to have for dinner, or whether or not to go to the Just Salad restaurant or go through the Wendy's drive-through. Technology affects our willpower and discipline. And setting up these tech guardrails ahead of time can help with that.
Oh, I like that. I like that acknowledgement because we only have so much bandwidth for all of these decisions that we're having to make and to be able
Yes.
to have something to help with some of those ways that we are being so distracted so that we can save our decision making for the things that are important at the end of the day when we're exhausted by it.
Mhm.
That can make a
Yeah.
big difference. Yeah. So, how can you support focus with teams then? Is it the same type of tech guardrails that you use for that, or is it different for teams?
No, it is not different for teams. 40%. So the Digital Wellness Institute recently did a study, and 40% of respondents said that the digital communication
Hmm.
at their company was
Hmm.
one of the main reasons why they were leaving the digital culture. Because,
Really?
yes, because of all of it's like the wild, wild west, people pinging, ringing, buzzing, at all hours, and not having any kind of etiquette. You emailing somebody at 7 o'clock at night, but you would never call them, at
Yes.
7. So when I work with teams, it's, maybe coming up with a communication charter to ask everyone, what are your guardrails? Do you have your phone on silent most of the day? What are your work hours? What is the best way to reach you if something's urgent? If it's just something that's FYI, because we had people emailing, slacking, Teams chats, texting, calling. Some people do still call. There are so many different avenues to get messages that there are rarely clear guidelines on how to communicate with each other. And one thing I tell people is, well, let me back up. There's two schools of thought. And one is that, hey, if I want to work during my off hours and they answer, that's on them. And I say, ish, because if you are in a position of hierarchy, it doesn't matter how many times you say, if I work at night or the weekend, don't worry about replying back to me. People will feel compelled because you are their superior. And if they know that you work, many people will feel compelled just to check because you don't want to be the one to not answer that email, especially if there are multiple people on the thread. And so, really working with leadership for them to set the expectations and model the behavior that they tell people, that, and I'm like air quotes, that they're encouraging people to adopt, but they're not adopting themselves. And it can be so simple by just scheduling the email, schedule the Teams message. You don't have to send it, right then. And even you can schedule Slack messages. You can schedule texts with the right app. And, the difference too is that because we also work with business owners. And, me as a business owner, I have a more flexible schedule. I actually really enjoy working on Saturday mornings. But, a lot of times on Fridays, I don't work that much. Or it might be that, I'm half a day on a Thursday, I'm out, doing things that other people do on the weekend. So my schedule is much more flexible. But my coaching clients that are working like regular 9 to 5s, which that I don't even know if that exists anymore, 8 to 6 or whatever, 8 to 7, 7 to 6, they're already working those hours and they don't have that flexibility. So the goal is for them not to be working at night when their kids are with them or not to be working on the weekends. That's when they need to recharge.
Yes. And so if we keep letting it sprawl into all those hours, we're just burning people out, which is not what we want to do.
Yeah. And the remote hybrid environment has made it worse. And I'm not against remote. I've actually worked remote since 2001. But our screen time has gone up 3 hours in the last 2 years from an average of 8 hours a day to 11.
Wow.
For
That's
remote workers.
Yeah.
Yes. And a lot of that is video.
Yeah. A lot of video meetings. That definitely adds to it as well. Do you put that into the charters, the communication charters about how much you're having meetings?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. It's even before COVID, meetings in most surveys were the number one least productive thing at a company. And whenever I work with a company, we send out a productivity scorecard and it asks everybody questions about their email, task management, time, meetings, and so on. And I'm telling you, I have not worked with a single company that didn't complain about ineffective meetings. Not one.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Too many. Yeah.
Yeah, too many. And making sure they have a purpose and the right people are there instead of just having everyone arbitrarily having to attend, even though it's taking away from them actually getting things done and being productive.
Yeah. And when they do that, there's a rule of 7 for every number of people in a meeting over 7, decision-making decreases by about 10%. And so, I offered that, but then also the more people on the meeting, the more people are multitasking because they're like, well, nobody's going to ask me or so-and-so will take care of it. So then there's that. And, there's this meeting calculator online where you can take people's estimated hourly rates and see how much this meeting actually costs. And, so everybody that works for me, they're hourly. And so I'm very considerate when I'm inviting people to meetings because this is like, I know exactly how much this is going to cost me. And if you had a room of executives and all of their direct reports, and they were, they were able to see how much it was costing them. Like, oh, this was a $7,000 meeting. Or
Yes.
this is a, $16,000 meeting and we didn't even make a decision.
Yep. Exactly. No
So there's
objective
been
was
a couple
reached.
times where I've actually calculated like, okay, how much is this costing you? And they were just astounded. They couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a very, very good tool to have. Very good tool to have. Yes. And so when looking at focus, like what are some of the tools and tricks you have to help people with focus?
I am not a fan of notifications on
Mm.
phone, your watch, email for certain. And that is one of the first things that we take off when we're working with personal coaching clients. Notifications on as the default are not there to help you be more productive. They're there to get you to use the tool more.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just gotten used to them being on, but it just means that we've just gotten used to the state of distraction. And this constant switch tasking every time we get a notification, it leads to that feeling, I worked all day. I don't know what I did.
Yes, I definitely felt
Yes.
that. Yes.
Yes. Uh-huh. And whenever I say that, people are like, "Oh yeah, that's me." And it's because of the switch tasking back and forth, and we're switching from one context to another. And I liken it to, if you were driving at 4 a.m. from one city to the next, there's nobody on the road, you're getting great gas mileage, you're in the zone, you're getting from point A to point B, you don't even think about it. Compare that to rush hour, where every time you're stopped, you're not back up to 70 immediately. You have to speed back up, stop, speed, stop, speed, stop. You may only get to 30 or 40 miles per hour during rush hour. That is your brain on notifications where you're never really getting focused. So I say turn off everything that you feel comfortable with. Like the only notifications I get are when I travel, I get like the airline notifications, those pop up, and my phone, because if somebody calls me, then that's usually a little bit more urgent because hardly anybody calls. So the phone is one that's on for me, but I don't even have like texts on. I just check, once an hour or so. So that would be one thing. Um, you know, Establishing phone-free time to recharge our brains and let ourselves just thinkitate. Because we don't just think enough. And I was guilty of this too, where I always had input coming in. I was listening to a podcast. I was an audiobook. I was, there's always something going into my brain. And, so giving ourselves that time, because if we don't give ourselves quiet time, then we're not able to think or solve problems, I should say. And that's why, you usually solve a problem when you're exercising or taking a shower.
Yeah.
So that would be another thing is establishing something that you do that's device free, where you don't have input coming in. And then from a team's perspective, establishing some kind of communication charter and get input from your team and find out how people want to communicate best and kind of get on the same page with them.
No, that's very useful. And it's interesting. I've noticed that when I'm really stressed out that I don't listen to the radio in the car. I don't have any music on, no podcast, no nothing. It's just quiet in my car. And so that must be because I need to think. So now I feel better
Yes.
about that. I used to think, I must be overwhelmed because I don't have any music on, but I just need to think. That's a good,
Yeah.
good reminder. That's an important thing to do. It's not just for the shower.
Yes. Yeah. We need to, and we become more creative when we're a little bit bored. I was so guilty of this, and I took an input fast, or I had an input fast last year. I had a podcast episode about it. I didn't listen to any podcasts for a month. I just listened to music, and because I'm number one learner in Strengths Finders, if you're familiar with that assessment. So I am always like taking a course, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm listening to an audiobook, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to listen to music for a month. And it was a really good experiment for me. For one thing, just, there are lots of hits from the 80s and 90s that I had forgotten about. Brought back some fun memories.
Yes. Did you notice an increase in your creative abilities and your thoughts that came in that were different because you were able to have more space for that?
I don't know necessarily if I felt like I was more creative, but I did make the decision to have more phone-free times
Yeah.
and phone-free activities because I did feel like that there was some kind of shift and that I was just able to think more and solve problems more.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's interesting. No, when I travel, I've noticed when I was writing that traveling was always when I did more writing. And I think it's because I had more quiet time when I was
Yeah.
traveling. And that's the
Yeah.
big difference. So that's good to think about that you do need that space sometimes and to go on walks or do exercise, do things that you can do without extra things coming in. Because if we're just like taking things in all the time, we don't have time for it to process.
Yeah. And, because you mentioned writing, so I've written 3 books, and 2 of them, most of the books were written at Umstead State Park, which is near where I live in Raleigh. And I would take my laptop there. I'd get about 2 hours of juice on it.
Hmm.
And it has it has terrible cell service. So I couldn't get a hotspot if I wanted to. I couldn't get a text, and there
Hmm.
was nowhere to plug in. So even though I would, drive there with my laptop or ride my bike with my laptop, and I only would write for 2 hours before my computer went dead, I would get more done in that 2 hours than I would if I stayed at home in my home office and, had it open for 3.
Yes. Getting rid of the distractions makes such a difference in being able to focus sometimes. So
Yeah.
definitely doing that. I've definitely noticed that. I did that where when I started my podcast that I actually got an office space, a desk in an office, and not having my office at home that had all the things and tons of projects to get done and all these distractions for me that I get pulled into, that just going to a space where like there was a desk, there was nothing pretty much there. And all I could do was the work that was in front of me, made it so I got so much more progress done and so much more done than when I was at home with all the distractions, even though I had a home office.
Yeah. Well, and back to your question about like improving your focus. One thing that I've recommended to people, and again, like I said, I've worked from home since 2001. I am a big fan of remote work. I am definitely more productive. I'm an ambivert. I'm an extrovert,
Mhm.
but I need a lot of privacy. So I am much better at home because if I was in an office with a bunch of people that I knew,
Yes.
way too easy for me to strike up conversations. But I joined a co-working space last
Mhm.
year called Raleigh Founded, and I will go there and they have little fun booths. They have huddle rooms that I meet my concierge in and we'll co-work in there. And sometimes I'll just go but there are some co-working spaces that are a little bit more social. Well, ours is not. We have social functions, but for the most part, people are just in there, working. And I will go in there like once a week. And I find that I get a lot done there because I don't have the distractions at home, especially if my husband is here. Like if my
Mhm.
husband is like has a cold and doesn't go into work, I am out of here because
Yes.
like I'll hear him like opening up cabinets and I know that all I need to do is say like, it's in the cabinet to the left, because I know that he's looking for something. Um, but I think that's one thing that, co-working spaces are kind of missing the opportunity to advertise to people that do have a great home office. I mean, I have an amazing home office, but I still like to get out once a week or so. And for people who don't have a co-working space near them, um, even a hotel lobby. I love me a fancy hotel lobby. They're even quiet. I'll work off my hotspot. Sometimes I'll just buy a coffee at their cafe and I'll say, can I hop on your Wi-Fi? And then I feel fancy because I'm in this gorgeous lobby. And so that's an option too, because coffee shops can be good for some people, but sometimes it's a little loud and you can't always
Yeah.
guarantee a place to sit. But a nice hotel lobby, yeah,
Yes, I've done that, especially when traveling. I've discovered how nice they can be.
yeah,
So Vita Co-working in Portland, Oregon, Vita is amazing. And I think that's actually one of the secrets because when I've had jobs that I work at full time, when I go into the office, I feel like I need to check in with this person and this
yes,
person. And I appreciate this person, what they contribute. So I need to go talk to them so I can maintain that connection, that gratitude for what they do. And so I spend a lot of time doing that, like, deposits into all those banks
yeah,
of all those things and connecting. And when I come here, I do have people I enjoy talking to, but I don't feel the need to, and I don't have to, and I can go be antisocial and focus on my work. And I don't feel bad about it at all if I don't talk to anybody. So it's kind of nice. The co-working, that's a good point about the co-working, is I don't feel the need to be social, even if I need to get my work done, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Very good. Very good tools. So even if you have a home office, it's not such a bad idea to have this co-working space. They have an option here for 4 days a month, or you can have the desk space like I had when I started here, which was really nice. So you have some options like that.
Yeah, we have it. Our option is I don't have a suite or an office, but I can use any of the space, which there's plenty of space. And then I have, unlimited access to meeting rooms if I want them. And it's $200 a month. Just the meeting rooms alone, like to be able to meet clients or meet other people there for a few hours, a few times a month is well worth it. And the community, it's one thing that I have heard from some people, when they went remote, is that they feel a little isolated. And it's nice, like they have community days and things like that Raleigh founded. And so it is nice to have a community to feel part of.
Yes.
But again, it's like the best of both worlds, because it's not, I feel that I have to for my career or business to talk to that person next to me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a nice bonus. Yeah. They have happy hours here, and they have lunches here, and they have great activities. It's great to participate in. But if I miss one, I don't feel like I'm missing out or disappointing anyone. Whereas with other jobs, I felt like you had to. So co-working spaces, they're awesome. So that's a good way to help with focus. That's a good extra point. I like that. So you also have a tool that you are coming out with that is brand new, hot off the presses for planning. Is your playbook. Do you want to talk more about your playbook and how that can support these things too?
Yes, because it just launched today. It is
That's amazing.
It's actually in pre-launch mode, but they called the Powered Path Playbook. And it is a digital meets analog tool. So it's not just a planner. It's an online course explaining the prompts throughout the playbook and how to use it. And I have used a lot of different planners over the last decade. And what I found is that they focus too much on the doing and not enough on the reflection. And we need to ask ourselves the questions, every month, like what worked well, what didn't work well. What do I need to change? What were my biggest brags? What are the wins for today? When we take the time to reflect, we're better able to plan our future.
Yeah.
So the playbook goes along with my method of annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily reflections and planning. So there are prompts for each of those. And for business owners, they tend not to have a group that they're discussing these things in. They're not doing annual reviews or one-to-ones. So these are good prompts for business owners to do for themselves. For employees, the benefit for employees is they can't remember what they did 6 months ago when they have their annual review. They don't feel comfortable bringing up their, top brags for the month when they have their one-to-one. So these prompts are there for them to be able, like, okay, this is what I did this month. This is what I did. This is the lesson that I earned. And for leaders, when leaders buy it for their teams, they're consistent questions that they can ask their team member, like, what were your brags? What lessons did you earn this month? And so it creates this framework that the whole team or the individual can really chart their year and be able to go back and look and reflect. And I've done this. I've been doing this for like the last 9 years and really, perfected the prompts for what I feel works the best for my clients and for the people that I've done this with.
That's amazing. So what's the course piece of it? Like, how big is that commitment, and how does that integrate with it?
It's not a big commitment because we're all fully scheduled. It is about an hour.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it is about an hour, and there's a video for each prompt. And the shortest video is about 30 seconds. The longest, I think, is task batching, and that's a little under 5 minutes.
Nice. And you have a
Yeah.
focus of focusing on 3 things a day, which I love because I talked about that in one of our episodes. So I love that you
Yes.
limit that because we want to be, focused on things.
Yes. Your top 3 priorities. And those are for your day, your week, your month, your quarter, and your year. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. And that's going to all go up on December. You said December 5th. Is that right?
No, so it's launched today. It's in
Mhm.
pre-launch mode. If people order before December 5th, I can guarantee it in time for the holidays.
Oh, nice.
And the entire thing is $199, the course and the playbook. The playbook is an analog, we'll mail that to you. And I know the price will go up because my printing costs have gone up because we're adding some things into it. Oh, I have to tell you the part that I'm really excited about.
Nice.
So, one thing too is that I felt bad throwing away planners and journals every year. I'd get these like beautiful linen bound, and I was like, oh, I'm just throwing them away. So I decided to create it binder style. And so that way, you can move, like when you're done with the quarter, you can move it to the back. When you're done with the week, you could move it to the back. So you're always, the current time
Nice.
is in the front if you want it to be. And also I put in like 50 extra lined pages so that say you're going to a workshop that day and you want to take notes, you can take out a lined page and put it right next to the day that it is that day. And also, you can use your own binder that you love in the color that you want and not be, restricted to like the black or the linen or whatever it is. But for companies, if they wanted to, they could, we could co-brand it and they could have it coil bound if they want. But that option, I was really excited about creating because it's more sustainable. And, after the first year, you can just order a refill of the analog, and it's A5 size. It's not giant, 8 by 10 or 8 by 11. So I'm really, really excited about this for my clients, but also just to introduce people to this reflection piece, because to me, it's been a really integral part of getting me to where I am. And I even offer a bonus reflections template for couples and partners.
Nice.
And my husband and I have done reflections. We do it every year on New Year's Day, and then every anniversary in July. And it encourages you. I don't want to say force, but encourages you to ask questions and talk about things that you might not otherwise talk about, like what's working well, what's not working well. And even asking, like in the individual playbook, it's, your top brags. But do you think about your top brags as a couple? And that's a cool thing to think about. I mean, if you're partners in crime or, you're doing stuff together every day, or it's important to kind of see how you're working as a team.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. I think it's great to include that because that is something not enough people are doing and having that reflection. So it's nice that it starts into a planner. I don't think I've heard of that before. That's such a nice bonus.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, good stuff. Good stuff. That's awesome. Wonderful. So as we're getting closer to time to wind things down and wind things up, did you have anything you wanted to make sure we covered, or have we kind of done a good job of getting things in and we can move into our self-care stuff?
I feel like we have packed this. So I'm ready to move into self-care.
Awesome. So
I'm excited about this one.
Good. Our self-care spotlight. Tell us what you do for self-care.
I'm excited because it's so easy. I have an infrared sauna.
Ooh.
Oh, it is the best health investment I have ever made. We got it during COVID, the first year of COVID. And I have Hashimoto's disease and pretty severe Raynaud's disease. So it significantly helps with that. But it's on my screen and porch, and it is a device-free zone. I take no devices in there. I will either meditate or do a self-hypnosis track, or I read, or I do crossword puzzles. And I typically will do that at the end of the day as my transition. Like, it's 2:45 right now. About 4:00, I'll start heating it up. And between 5 and 5:30, I'll get in there for 20 to 40 minutes. If I have stuff that I'm doing in the evenings, then I'll get in it in the morning. But it is the best health investment I've ever made.
That's incredible. That's so great that you did that and that you're so good at using it on a regular basis to be able to enjoy those benefits.
I use it every single day that I am home. It would be, I would say there might be 1 to 2 days max a month that if I am not traveling, I am not in there for 20 minutes at least.
That's incredible. That's incredible. But it takes a while to heat up, you said. So you have to be able
Well,
to.
it takes about in the summer, it only takes about 30 minutes. In the winter, it takes about an hour to an hour and a half. But again, we have it on our screen and porch. Whereas if you had it, like my brother just bought one and he will have his in his basement and it will take no time to heat up. And mine's a little older model. And you can get them where they heat up much faster.
Oh, that's so exciting. I love that. That's not one I've heard about before. I love hearing about new ways of doing self-care and things that work for folks. That's amazing. That's great. So what would you have for our grit way? If we take one thing that people can implement immediately and take away, what would be the one thing you would recommend that people can just take away and start tonight or tomorrow to start doing to help increase their focus, their productivity, or what would you say?
I'm going to offer a mindset shift.
Nice.
That usually I give it just an action, like do this action, but I want to do a mindset shift instead, especially because we're leading into the holidays. Instead of using the word barrier or boundary, consider it a guardrail. So you have a technology guardrail or a time guardrail because guardrails keep us safe. When we are driving around the mountains, at least for me, I want guardrails there. They protect me. And so when you set guardrails around your technology or your time, they're keeping you and your energy and your focus safe.
Nice. So shifting the way you look at that and the way you think about that and label that to being guardrails, to be able to not be boundaries is something that you're choosing to have there to keep yourself safe and keep yourself on track.
Yeah.
I love it. That is perfect. Thank you so much. And what is the best way for people to find you and follow you and learn more about you?
HelloRaderCo.com. And the playbook is HelloRaderCo.com/playbook.
Excellent.
Yes. Nice. And I am LinkedIn only. And I am fairly active on LinkedIn. So I'd love for people to connect with me there too.
Awesome. Well, we will definitely make sure we have your LinkedIn in the show notes as well so people can connect with you and to check out the playbook on your website as well. Congratulations on that. That sounds like such a fun thing to have out and to have available for folks.
Thank you. Just launching today and already seeing sales in my inbox. I feel a lot of gratitude and for my team and just the people that have been involved and everybody that I've done reflections with over the last 9 years. And it just is a really amazing feeling.
That's great. I love it. I love it. And we're coming right off of, Thanksgiving. So gratitude's good stuff. We love gratitude.
Yes.
Yes. Good stuff. Well, good. Well, thank you so much for taking time to meet with us today, Marcey. This was very valuable and I'm excited for people to hear all of it and to get all of the tips and tricks as well as having access to the what you're offering. Thank you.
Thank you, Shauna.
Thank you for being here as part of our audience today. If you're interested in checking out our coloring books, after all, it is the holidays. All you need to do is Google The Color of Grit, and they should pop up. You can definitely find them on Amazon. You can also get sample pages off of our website, thegritshow.com. Don't forget, you are the only one of you that this world has got, and that means something. We'll be here again next Tuesday. I hope you are too.